Hello and welcome to Dice Masters United. I'm Spug.
I'm Ben.
I'm James.
And I'm Peter.
Coming up in this episode.
Dice Masters is back with a bang, with a confirmation of a release date for the Dark Phoenix expansion and a wild new OP kit.
We'll be delving into the news and breaking down the new OP cards, including the first alternate win condition since the game was launched.
And we'll be looking forward to the new and improved Two Team Takedown tournament that gets underway in early February.
All that and more in the latest episode of Dice Masters United.
Yes, we are back. It feels like Dice Masters has come out of hibernation, and so have we. After a bit of a Christmas break, we are back with you, and it's good to be here. Although we are a man down, we should mention on this occasion, Ben is not with us. James, where could he be?
Well, Ben, as a man renowned for his negotiating skills, has been sent on a peacekeeping mission to Geneva to help out with the talks concerning the potential war in Ukraine. So good luck, Ben.
Excellent. Well, that's good news. Do you think he's taking his Dice Masters with him? Is he going to be trying to play Sergei Lavrov at practicing a bit of Two Team Takedown, maybe? If
he does, I suggest that he loses.
Let the Wookiee win.
Oh no, we've sent the wrong man.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think Ben could do that.
He should have sent me. I'm much better at losing. But there we go. But it's good to be back. How are you, James? Have you had a good break? Have you been doing lots of gaming? What's been happening?
Yeah, I've had a lovely time. Thank you very much. I've had a nice long holiday. I've done a lot of bird watching and some gaming.
In that order.
Yes. More of the former than the latter. And I was saying before we came on that I had to go back to work this week, which was quite a shock. But the week before that, I was very much relishing not going back to work while all those around me did. That's what I like to do every January, is to delay my return as long as possible so I can sit back and relax while my wife and daughter disappear from the house. But yes, I'm fine.
Excellent. And Peter, how are things over in Amsterdam? How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I've not done a lot of bird watching, I must admit.
Judas.
I also didn't do a whole lot of gaming. I did play some Pokemon trading card game, both online and off.
Yeah. What is Pokemon? I see Pokemon has been around for ages. I've never played it. Is it any good?
It is. Yeah. There's a lot of variation in abilities and such. It's very different from Dice Masters and from Magic the Gathering, so it's a nice change of pace. I like it because I don't like playing games that are too similar.
No, it's certainly very popular. It's certainly popular with the youth, isn't it? It seems to be.
Yeah, I think that's their main business model. They just mostly sell them to kids because they like the pictures, and there's a select group of people that actually play the game.
Very good, very good.
What about you, Spug? What have you been doing?
Well, all is well. Had a nice Christmas break. I think we went to some friends on New Year's Eve, and they have two teenage boys who are very smart and also very competitive. And I think I probably was engaged in the longest ever game of Bonanza in the history of gaming, thanks to the rather protracted negotiations that were led over every blue and coffee bean going, but no, generally well. We had a bit of COVID in the house, but that's gone now, so all is well. So it's very good to be back. And I suppose the first thing we should talk about is the fact that Dice Masters has a new product release date. Yay! Ooh. It's been announced since we were last with you that the Dark Phoenix expansion, the extremely long-awaited, shall we say, Dark Phoenix expansion, will be published in North America, at least. We don't know any further, on the 16th of February. So that's cool. Not very long.
Quite soon, isn't it?
I know. I know.
By the time this comes out, that'll be very soon.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, we don't have any... I'm right in saying that we don't have any intel on whether that will extend to Europe and to what extent or when things might arrive over here, do we, chaps?
No clue.
Don't think so.
Yeah, so we can but hope. I mean, last time... Well, I mean, this is the first Ice Masters release since what? Since July 2020, I think. So it's getting on for 2 years, and that was a North American release, and we ended up getting the stuff. I mean, obviously COVID was very much in full swing then, but in Europe we got the stuff maybe 3 or 4 months later, was it?
Was it that long? Blimey.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Okay, so
I feel like
October-ish.
I think it was like maybe November, October, November time before it arrived on these shores.
Mm-hmm.
So we can but hope that things won't be quite so bad this time around. But yeah, so it's very exciting anyway to get some new stuff, and maybe, I mean, there's talk that maybe even Kryptonite Crisis might only be a couple of months behind.
Mm.
Do we believe that?
I'll believe it when I see
it.
Yes, that's probably very sensible. So anyway, Dark Phoenix is on its way. We hope to arrive shortly in Europe, but obviously it will be landing with our North American friends on the 16th of February, which is all very exciting. But since we last recorded, obviously the other big thing that's happened is that there's been a big OP kit reveal. Now, who wants to say, Peter, do you want to say what an OP kit is, first and foremost, for the benefit of listeners who aren't familiar with them?
Well, OP stands for Organized Play, and these are prize cards that the game stores can order and hand out at tournaments.
Yeah, and they've tended to consist of, typically, I mean, they've done them themed with other sets, haven't they? And they've normally, is it 3? Typically, they've been 3 cards usually?
Yeah, I think that's right. You get a bunch of participation ones and then a couple of other ones, and isn't one of them usually an alt art, or 2 of them are alt arts or something?
Yeah, usually the participation one is alt art, and then the other ones are unique cards.
And they've been a real mix, haven't they? Of some have been totally new cards. A few have been really useful and must have. I mean, Black Widow Agent, obviously one of those. So there have been a few sort of must-haves, but a lot of them have been sort of, should we say, more kind of cosmetic, maybe for the collectors than for the hardcore players.
Yeah, there have been some pretty cool ones, but most of them were not super playable.
Yeah, but that all seems to have changed with a big reveal this week. So for anybody in Europe who stayed up to the very early hours of the morning on Thursday night, Friday morning as we record, they will have seen a DM Armada video with Jimmy O'Brien from WizKids, product manager, in which they did a reveal of a new OP kit that links with the Dark Phoenix, and it consisted of a whopping 14 cards, and most of which are alt art versions of cards that are coming in the Dark Phoenix set. But there are some unique cards that are not actually coming in the set itself. So if you want to get hold of all those, you're going to have to somehow get hold of these OP cards.
You have to fly to America. The release date, incidentally, is also on Solicits, which is the WizKids sort of information system giving dates for distributors, or shops, I suppose, not distributors. And it's the 23rd of February, so a week after the release date. Again, in the US, obviously.
Yes, quite.
Or North America, perhaps, I should say. Sorry, Canada.
Indeed, yeah. So that's coming too. And we thought, I mean, there's so much to talk about really in that, not least because for anybody who's seen it, and of course we're going to do the classic thing that we say we should always avoid, and we're going to be talking about artwork on a podcast. But if you haven't seen the cards, then highly to the DM United webpage, because there you will find our full spoiler list, which was in fact featured in the DM Armada video, and you will find pictures of all the cards. But the thing about these cards is, if you haven't seen them by now, you will know that the artwork is, well, unusual to say the least when it comes to Dice Masters. They've really gone kind of way outside the box in terms of the new sort of style of art. So, guys, what are our general thoughts on them? Peter, what do you reckon?
Well, yeah, they have certainly flipped the script when it comes to designing cards. Some of them are pretty cool. Some of them are completely illegible, but, that's... Who needs to read what the card says? Mixed, bit of a mixed bag. They don't really fit together all too well.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of them are do look more like a traditional card, like the Powerbolt one. That still has the cost in the top left, so that as you're used to, and it has a little thingy around it. And some of them are completely unrecognizable as being a Dice Masters card.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool, but I don't know how that's going to look on my mat.
You're worried that they're not going to all look that they're not going to follow the same format.
I like a bit of consistency.
Yeah. James, what about you?
Well, just to start with the positive, they've clearly tried to do something different, which is to be commended, surely. And they are eye-catching. There is no doubt of that.
Yeah.
And I definitely like 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. So, there's definitely some good stuff in there. I would generally agree with Peter. I think perhaps we have sort of similar similar sensitivities to graphic design. I don't know. They're a bit. There's a lot of text been integrated in many cases with the comic art and dice images thrown in there.
Yeah,
and there are many different fonts and very little consistency, and I'm not that keen on that. I think it was a brave and bold move to do something different. So fair enough. But in terms of graphic design, which I'm a fan of, but obviously not a professional, I think it's quite important to have stuff being legible, and the information should be readable, and it's really not. And maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't matter at all, because in many cases they are alt arts, and you could you could have the other card, or you could have you're not going to have a super rare Magneto probably, but you have other cards to reference from, so maybe that's not a big deal. But if that is the case, then why put the text on there at all? They've already established a precedent with the full art textless basic action cards, which I think look spectacular. The ones that we've seen from this set look lovely, and that's definitely more up my alley. I think if you're gonna play with a format, and you're gonna make the text basically illegible in some cases, or at least really hard to read, then you might as well just get rid of it and do the full art thing. But probably they wanted to do something different from that, and so it's understandable. Doesn't work for me in every case. In most cases, I have to say. Yeah. But it was bold, and it's it's interesting. It's quite flashy, and there are some that I like for sure.
Yeah. I think they were using the phrase "broken frame." I think, if I remember correctly, weren't they? That's because obviously they are just wildly different from a normal Dice Masters card, and obviously you only have to have a quick look at them to see that they haven't. Apart from, as I think Peter said, the Powerbolt, basically none of the others even bear a passing resemblance really to a Dice Masters card, to be honest, in terms of the way they're put together. I mean, maybe the Magnetos are possibly kind of closest, just because they've got a picture and then some text at the bottom, and that's a bit more standard. But yeah, like some of them are hard to read, and that does beg the question of why they bother putting the text on in the first place, because they could have just left it blank, and with some of those others. But I do think that yes, James. I
was just going to say I'm quite a big fan of letting the art sing, and I think that's what the full art stuff, the basic actions that I mentioned, that really does, let the art speak for itself. As soon as you start messing with what is, obviously you want to choose really nice art for your cards from the comics, which you have a agreement to use. As soon as you start messing with that, I think you're playing with fire a little bit, because you risk making it look less good. Sorry, go on.
No. I mean, we'll move on a little bit, should we, to talk about from our general thoughts. We should talk about the Hellfire Gala, which is a bonkers new basic action, which is not going to be available in the Dark Phoenix expansion. So the only way you're going to be able to get hold of this card is if you somehow win it or get hold of this OP kit, or I guess trade with someone who can trade it with you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. And the Hellfire Gala comes in two different flavors. There's one with an image of a female Captain Britain and one with Jean Grey. And Peter, do you want to give us the text? It's like a bonkers. It's a totally bonkers card, and it introduces a totally bonkers new concept to the game.
Yes, just let me grab my magnifying glass here. So, Hellfire Gala, it's a 6-cost basic action. It says roll 2 dice from your bag. So far, nothing new. And then it says each player fields 3 sidekick dice from their use pile. And then we get to the exciting part. If there are 16 or more dice in the field zone, you win the game.
Oh.
Boom.
Game over. I know.
Indeed.
It's mad. I mean, we were talking off air, and I think we're pretty safe to say this is the first new win con that has been introduced into the game since the game was first published. So it's kind of crazy, and I don't think anybody saw this coming. There hasn't been much hints, has there? I don't think, from Jimmy. I think maybe he's talked a little bit. There
was talk of on the MOD about an alternate win con, but I don't think the specifics of it particularly.
No. But what do we make of it, James? What are your initial thoughts on a brand new way to win for a start?
I think Peter is much better qualified to talk about the actual game text. I just would like to say that I mentioned that some of the cards I do like. These are the two that I like the design of more than any of them. I think it really actually, well, at least for me, it works. Obviously, it's all a bit subjective, but they're done to look like magazine covers.
Yeah.
And whereas all of the other ones have the sort of text scattered around the card and sort of dice images hither and thither, these ones, that actually looks like what it's clearly supposed to look like. They do look like, the covers of women's magazines, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they look really good for that. All right, they're not readable, but this is the thing. If you're going to make it, if you're going to make it quite hard to read, I think there needs to be a payoff in terms of how good it looks. And for these two, for me, it's worth it. Like they've done a great job.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, when I watched the video, I think when it came to the first of these being revealed, I kind of, even though I was sitting in a room on my own, I said, "Wow!" when that one was turned over, because it is extremely eye catching. And it is totally different. Obviously, it is very busy, and like you say, it's got that magazine cover sort of feel to it. But they are very eye catching cards.
It does evoke a promo from probably Amazing Spider-Man, I imagine, the Mary Jane Spider Ally promo, which was also in the style of a magazine cover.
Right. Yeah.
But it didn't integrate. Like that one was like it was also pretty good, but it didn't integrate the game text in the same way that these ones do. So I think this is a level above. It's a lot cleverer. And I think for me, it's the one that works. Those are the images that work of all of them. For sure.
Yeah. Peter, what do you think about the text of the card itself and the new win con and the cost and everything all kind of rolled together?
Yeah, it's super cool to get an alternate win con for the very first time. It's definitely something I would want to brew with.
Yeah.
It is fairly expensive, which is good because then you can plan ahead for it, and then your opponent probably will not have done that. So if you have some stuff to reduce actions that your opponent can't use, then you are the only one probably buying the Hellfire Gala. And then you are sort of forcing your opponent to not field too much, otherwise you could just win the game.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can push some damage through, just have it as a threat,
right?
Instead of actually winning with it.
Yeah.
But if they are not paying attention, you could win with it.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of awkward being in a position where you don't want to feel much, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's pressure. That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. It's kind of a little bit reminiscent, I suppose, of the trap. The name totally escapes me.
Green
for the moment.
Devil Mask.
Green Devil Mask. Thank you. Yeah, where if you've got 4 or more fielded characters in your field, boom, it goes off, and you have to re-roll all those characters. Kind of a little reminiscent of that in terms of discouraging people from fielding stuff. But then obviously the effect of it, aside from if there are 16 or more dice in the field zone, win the game. You've got some ramp, draw and roll 2 dice from your bag.
Uh-huh.
Interesting, it doesn't say draw, does it? It just says roll. Which is very unusual.
Turn over your bag and have 2 dice.
Yeah, they always say draw and roll, don't they? They never just say roll, do they? Anything? Anyway, and then each player...
Maybe that's the new word.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess it's pretty implicit that you would need to draw them. You can't just... Unless you maybe just roll them in your bag.
Well, you put your hand inside your bag and flick 2 dice out.
And you roll them in your bag, maybe. And then,
So it requires you to field a total of, if they are available for you and your opponent to field, like 6 psychics. Is that how it goes?
yes.
Yeah.
6 psychics. That's quite a lot already. That's a good chunk of your 16 dice, to be fair. If everybody has dice in their use bar.
Yes, each player fields 3 psychic dice from their use pile. And you made a point about that, didn't you, Peter, just in terms of when it's your turn?
Yeah, because your opponent will probably have the sidekicks in their use pile. You might not, because you have to draw 2 dice first, so that might trigger a bag reset.
Mm.
So that's tricky.
Yeah.
But still, if you can time it right, it could work. And it doesn't say character dice, so it also works for continuous action dice.
Right.
So you could have some of those in the field.
Nick was mentioning his Rush team, which might be quite interesting because a lot of dice.
You're thinking about Jackalope Spam Nick Wale, friend of the pod. Yeah, he's done his Rush Shenanigans video with you, hasn't he? Hasn't he, James? We've referenced a few times. And if Ben was here, he'd sigh and say, Rush is terrible. So we probably should say that from Geneva on his behalf.
Yeah. He's probably saying that to Sergei Lavrov, right?
I mean, it feels like this is one of those things that would be quite cool to have, as a sort of ongoing threat if people start to wall up and the game starts to go a bit long and slow. And you could reach for it. But of course, we are getting the Blue Eyes White Dragon global reprint, aren't we? Pay a bolt, knock out one of your characters, and reduce the cost of the next die by 2.
Yeah.
So it makes these big cost dice much more reachable, doesn't it?
But it also lets you get things out of your field much more easily.
Yeah.
Conversely.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Anyway, it's fun. It looks nice and it looks fun.
Yeah, and I want to hear the first time someone successfully uses this to win a game. It's going to be a historic moment. The first time someone has used an alternate win con to win the game. I want to hear about it. So if you do it, then please get in touch by using the contact details at the end of the show. We want to hear if and when you pull off a Hellfire Gala win, because I think that's going to be pretty cool. The race will be on. And Peter, I know. Have you got any thoughts in terms of things that you might be things that you could use? When you start brewing to win with this particular card, what kind of things might you be chucking in?
Probably Lita, that lets you field dice.
Yes. So her text is, at the end of your roll and re-roll step, you can spin any of your psychic dice to their level 1 superstar face. So basically, you can field all your psychics that you've just rolled.
Exactly.
Right, and Atlantis, so you can set aside your sidekicks from last turn and roll all 8 psychics at the same time.
Yeah.
And Thor to make it cheaper and as an alternate win con. I just really want to make Lita and Thor work. It's my dream. It's my last remaining dream.
Yes, does do 2 damage to your opponent every time you field a character. Yes, exactly. That would be good. And he gets a nice little... He's got a reduction global, hasn't he, as well? Yeah. So that the next action die you purchase, pay a bolt once per turn. The next action die you purchase this turn costs 2 less. So and of course he does help your opponent as well. And we should, of course, point out that as it is a basic action card, Hellfire Gala will be available to both you and your opponent. I mean, you were talking about ways of making it more expensive, weren't you, James, to put it out of their reach?
I was thinking about Scarecrow, but I don't know. Is that just any die? There's a Scarecrow that makes stuff cost 3 more. Hang on, let me find it. When fielded, name an opposing card. Is it an opposing card? No, not if you brought it. No, that's not going to work, is it? Bum.
Not if you bought it, that's right, yeah.
In Golden, you could use Blob, because that was ruled to work on... No, Blob is also opposing.
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky then.
In Golden, you have, I think, isn't there like an Eye of Agamotto that makes the actions more expensive?
Well, in Golden, you can always use Oracle and stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
Or Oracle Tax, or...
Yeah, the Eye of Agamotto is while the Eye of Agamotto is on a basic action card, that basic action costs 1 more for your opponents to purchase, so it's not actually makes that much difference. It doesn't make it... I mean, it makes it 7 instead of 6. It's not a huge difference, is it?
It might be worth mentioning Becky Lynch, the one that never gets played.
Tell us, James.
The one that people put on their team when they don't want to look horrible for bringing over. It says it's a 5-cost shield. When Becky Lynch attacks, you may choose an unpurchased, non-continuous basic action die and roll it. If it shows an action phase, you may use its effect immediately. Return the die to its card.
Yeah.
And it's got the handy global, the pay a shield. The first die you purchase this turn is added to your prep area instead of your use pile. And obviously she's got the stats to put pressure on. So quite worth buying herself. Yeah,
the only thing this one lacks is obviously the Overcrush. She doesn't, unlike the other 2 versions of her, she doesn't have Overcrush, does she? But it could be a cool way of a surprise Hellfire Gala.
Right, we've done Hellfire Gala. We like it. Let's push on, Spug.
All right, let's push on. So let's. No, you're right to. We shouldn't tarry. You are right to point that out. Should we talk about some of the individual cards then? I mean, obviously, the next thing probably to pick up, though, actually, before we do that, is the super rares, because obviously 2 of the cards in the set, if I'm not mistaken, are in fact super rares, which is again, I think, a first for an OP kit, isn't it? We don't think we've ever had super rares contained in, or sort of alt art super rares, should we say, contained in OP kits before, and we've obviously got that in the shape of Kitty Pryde and Magneto. So, I mean, is that
we maybe should say, in case you haven't seen it, so that there are 4 Kitty Pryde alternate arts which replace, which are the same as the 4 rarities in the main set, and the same is true of Magneto. Which means that you can get, as Spug says, the super rare through the OP kit. Now, the question which arises is, which one is less likely? Getting the OP kit or getting the super rare? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there are 16. Is it right that there are going to be 16 super rares in this particular?
I think that's the assumption. That's actually been confirmed. I think we know about 11 of them. Because Kitty was actually a new one. We didn't know about that previously.
Yeah.
But Kitty Super Rare is a bit pants. she's a 4-cost. While Kitty Pryde is active, each of your X-Men character dice, I'm struggling to read it, get +1 attack and +1 defense.
No. Yeah, she's not brilliant. She's a 4-cost.
At least she also gives herself extra
attack, but still costs 4 though, doesn't she?
Yeah.
No. And the Magneto one is more interesting, I think, although practically impossible to read. While Magneto is active, when one of your Brotherhood of Mutant character dice is KO'd, KO target opposing character die. So that's the what's it called? Vigilante Justice on legs. That's what we're calling it, isn't it?
Yes.
If you can use the Blue Eyes Global on, what is it, Phoenix? Dark Phoenix, probably.
Yeah.
To KO your own Brotherhood of... Does he have the affiliation? Because I can't see the symbol. Goodness knows.
Yeah.
That is it.
Oh, I think he does.
He does. It's on the knife handle.
Is it? Oh, yes, it is. Yes, I stand correct. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. He's got a mask on there as well. It's like hunt the affiliation. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I mean, I think we probably have talked about those cards, and we certainly will when the full set comes, which is not very long.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll do a review, so we don't need to go into huge amounts of detail. But it's interesting that you can get them as the OP kit if you don't get them from packs. If you get the OP kit.
Yeah, exactly. And that I mean, just to say that Magneto obviously does dovetail quite nicely with another card in the set, the Madeline Pryor. That's right, the Madeline Pryor, who is another Brotherhood of Mutants character, a 3-cost mask. It says when one of your Brotherhood of Mutants character dice is KO'd, besides Madeline Pryor, put a loyalty counter on her, and that basically is like an experience token in D&D. It gives +1A, +1D. So you can buff her up quite quickly if you can, if you get something like a Mystique or something and put her in the field and get her KO'd frequently. And because there is a Mystique, a 2-cost Mystique that says, while Mystique is active, reduce damage from opposing character abilities by 1. Obviously, that kind of Black Widow type thing. Then also, when Mystique is KO'd, you may move a Brotherhood of Mutants die with a purchase cost of 4 or less from your used pile to your prep area. So
that's nice.
So there's a nice little synergy between those three.
Yeah.
I always like the Brotherhood. Characters. Seems like they're going to get. Yeah. Yeah, they've got plenty of stuff going on. That's the. I don't know if it's. I don't know if it will be really competitive, but that's the slightly less competitive bit of Dice Masters that I like most. That sort of
thematic,
the sort of tribal interactions and stuff. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is cool and that is exciting. So we're looking forward to that. But I mean, one thing we don't know, of course, at this point is how many cards there will be in a total OP kit. Jimmy mentioned, I think, that they were going to be retailing for between about $20 and $25. But for retailers, I think, because technically, I think at this point you have to be a retailer in order to be able to purchase them. Because as Peter mentioned at the start, they're designed to get people doing organised play in a store. So that will be how the retailers will get hold of them. But obviously, what we don't know and what wasn't revealed in the video was how many of each card there's going to be in each OP kit. Because Jimmy explicitly said that he just organised one of each card to be sent to Stephen as part of the reveal. But I suspect there'll be, well, probably very few of the super rares, but probably lots of the Focus and the Power Bolt and, some of the other ones that people are going to be less.
But does all of this will there be one? Well, okay, we don't know how many of each, but will there be at least one of each of these cards in an OP kit? Is that how it's supposed to work? That's a lot of cards.
It is a lot of cards.
But that's what I understood. Mm-hmm. But it seems more like this should be like 4 OP kits.
Yeah, it feels like multiple OP kits.
Well, only because the OP kits typically, as we were saying before, tended to be like 3 different cards, and maybe you might have about 12 of one, about 4 or 5 of another, and then just a couple of another one.
But how are you supposed to divvy them up? I mean, if this does constitute one full OP kit, I don't know. I find that a bit confusing. A bit more details required on that.
I think usually,
because usually the winner of the tournament would get all of the cards, right?
Yeah,
true. Yeah,
or save for one maybe.
And there would be one card which had lots of copies, which would be for participation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the third one would be
that'd be Focus,
fellowship. Right?
Yes, exactly. I suspect that they'll just leave it. They'll continue to leave it up to the stores to decide what they do with the OP kits. I can't even say it, that they acquire, and we're done that way. So, but hopefully soon we'll get some more details on the number of cards that are going to be in each individual set. So, just a few words on some of the individual cards themselves. I mean, we mentioned Kitty Pryde. So, Kitty Pryde is one of the ones. There are 4 Kitty Prydes that all have the same new alt art version, and actually I really like this. It's kind of like a graffiti style, isn't it, in terms of the way they've done it's just got kind of like a name badge and then a sort of graffiti style subtitle at the top of the card, and then you can generally, I think, read the text pretty well, and it's got pictures of her dice there, and she's sort of bursting through the card. I kind of like it. James?
Yeah, I don't like it, but it's definitely readable. So I don't really like the artwork, and I don't like. Yeah, no. It's okay. It's not awful. I don't. I'm struggling to find something. It's readable. There you go.
It is.
Yeah, I think her suit is too shiny. In my opinion,
it looks like one of those sort of animated, like, you know, when they did a different kind of animation for Bob the Builder. I don't know if you remember that. Like the original Bob the Builder was super cool, and they've done it with other Marvel stuff as well, for sure. And then they did a sort of computer generated animation, which was just I didn't like
wrong,
it. And it's a bit like but yeah, phasing through the card is a nice thing. Yeah, okay,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're kind of less fans of the Magneto, I think, aren't we? So there are 4 different versions of the Magneto, but they've all got the same new alt art. So there's the common, the uncommon, the rare, and the super rare.
So there's Magneto in the background, and he's looking pretty angry.
Yeah,
and he's hurling, obviously, various metal items, including
everything but the kitchen sink.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking hard, and I think I can see in the background the kitchen sink actually is there.
Is there an actual kitchen sink?
And there are some dice which look more like Scrabble tiles, which freak me out a bit. I don't know why you would have slightly flattened dice. I didn't.
They must be made of metal, though, mustn't they? If he's flinging them.
Yeah.
Because if they were normal dice, he wouldn't have the power.
Them so hard that they have been squished.
Maybe.
Yeah. There's a cleaver on the front, which is
that's kind of cool. But anyway,
okay.
So generally speaking, yes, no, Peter.
Not so much. It's too 90s trading card for me.
James, you're...
I'm not a huge fan of these. No, let's move on.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning, that, you know, it's bold, it's brave, it's eye-catching. There's no denying that, but I'm personally not a fan of it.
No. Okay. So that's 10 of them. There are 4 other cards, aren't they, which I think are all basic actions, aren't they? We've got Powerbolt, Mutant Armor. Now, Mutant Armor was a new one, but we'll just come back to that in a sec. And... then Focus and Explosion. These were all basic actions that we didn't actually know about all of them, did we? Because we didn't.
No, Focus is not even from this set, which I find a bit confusing.
Ah, right. Yes.
Isn't it from a previous? It's from Infinity Gauntlet, right? I mean,
good point.
Doctor Strange is not a well-known X-Man. This one seems like the odd one out to me. If we can just get this out of the way early doors, it's basic action from a different set. And okay, I'm not a fan of the actual comic artwork, but you know, it's okay. But I really don't. I think this one is the one. Let me rephrase this properly. This is the one that works least well for me.
Right.
There's stuff all over the place, and it just detracts from the artwork, which I don't even like that much in the first place. And it's hard to read, and it's not from this set, and I don't like it. So can we talk about something else?
Oh, we can, James. So what about Powerbolt? Because the Powerbolt is, as we mentioned before, it's kind of the closest to an actual normal Dice Masters card, and it's got a very eye-catching image. I really like the picture. I think is fab, which I think someone is pointed out is Joe Jusko. Artwork, but it's kind of he's blasting. Cyclops is kind of blasting his eye rays out.
Is it because we're conservatives at heart that we find this like the most acceptable? Maybe we're just really square. And we don't like change, because this is as you say, this is the one that bears most resemblance to like a regular card. And
it's not my favourite.
Familiarity makes it a bit more comfortable.
True. I mean, it's not my favourite, if I'm honest. But go on, James. What do you think?
Not my favourite at all. But like okay, like I like the Hellfire Gala much more than any of the others. Yeah. This one, I don't like Cyclops as a character, so I'm never really going to like it. But if you have to have Cyclops on the card, this is pretty nice artwork. It's, you know, the layout is somewhat familiar, which I think helps. Maybe I am a conservative. I don't know. The text is very hard to read, but if you don't know what Powerbot says at this point, then you know, whatever. I personally don't like the way they've integrated. I don't really like the way they've integrated the dice into any of the cards much, but as Peter said before the show, if they're going to do it like that, I think it's really nice the way they've done it on Mutant Armor. It's really subtle, and that's quite clever. This is not. The background is like spacey kind of thing, and then you've got these horrible pink dice, which matches eye beams. But I'm not. Yeah, so it's all right. It's all right, but I don't like the dice. I'm sorry.
Does it do it for you, Peter?
Yeah, I also don't like the dice so much on here. If I imagine the dice away, it looks much nicer.
Yeah.
Yes. I wonder if they're covering something up. Do you think there might be something in the artwork that they didn't, that they just conveniently needed to sort of remove? Like, I don't know, a character they didn't have a license for, or I don't know, it would be a very small character, maybe a hamster, some sort of space hamster.
It's covering up the space hamster.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be it. That explains everything.
Or the parrot that's on his right shoulder.
On his shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Power Belt is, it's all right.
It's pretty cool. All right, you mentioned Mutant Armor. Now, Mutant Armor is an interesting one because I think Jimmy said on the stream that it's the same as a basic action from the Dark Phoenix Saga called Organic Steel, which hadn't been spoiled until now. But this appears to be a totally new card, like the Hellfire Gala, but it's basically got the same text as another card, so it's kind of unique, but not unique, if that makes any sense. But
it's a continuous one, isn't it? Go on, what does it say?
Yes, it says continuous, prevent up to 2 damage to target character die and move this die to your use pile. If you have an active X-Men character, also gain 1 life. It's a really eye-catching image, and it's kind of done in this pink style that that has, and James mentioned that has maybe kind of got the dice woven very cleverly into a sort of background armor, which is really cool.
Do you think this is a hollow card? Is that why we can't read it properly?
What do you mean?
No, I don't think any of the cards were hollows.
Oh,
They're not foils.
Because I quite like it. I think it's good. I like this one. I accept that the text of all of the cards, this has text which is really, really, but maybe in person, maybe we should say. Obviously, looking at them on a computer screen is not the same as holding them in your hand.
No,
and I'm not sure I ever will hold them in my hands. But if I do, and it looks better, I will take some of what I've said back. But this one has potential if that is more readable in person, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do really like the way they have integrated all of the text into the image, because they also the basic action card text is also on one of the shoulders of the armor, and just works really well as there's nothing distracting here like with the power bolt.
Yeah.
It's just very hard to see the cost because it's light pink on dark pink.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that might also be better in hand.
Yeah, indeed. Now I think,
and I do like the art on that.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's pretty cool image.
Do we know who the character is?
That's Armor.
What that?
That's the name of the character. Armor.
Eponymous.
Okay.
It would say.
Oh, I see. Very good. Very good.
Okay.
Excellent. And so finally, I think the last one, the only one we haven't mentioned, is Explosion, which is kind of exploding. They're all on fire. And it's like some meanies coming out of a lift, and they've got fire coming out of their clothes.
They might be goodies. Oh, you know the meanies.
But they're dressed in black, James. It's like they're dressed in black and they've got mean faces.
Obviously, I'm
they
missing
can only be
here.
they can only be meanies when they look like that in a comic book. But
are they coming out of a lift?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got up and down, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
I guess. I really like the artwork.
Yeah.
I mean, like the original comic artwork. I don't know what it is. I'm not familiar with the characters, but I think I always like that sort of thing. It reminds me of Nitro, if you remember from Civil War.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I'm talking about what it looks like on a podcast, but go and check it out. It's really nice. I'm not that keen on the added elements, but I really like the picture they've chosen. Yes, let's leave it there. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful piece of art, and the added elements, the dice and the title are not too intrusive, although I'd rather not see them. There's a bit of burnt paper at the bottom with the game text, which I'm not a big fan of. I've got to say, I don't. Seems a bit sort of. Yeah. Let's just leave it there. I don't really like that, but the image is lovely, I think.
It is, and it's quite clever how it's got the cost is sort of interwoven into the back of the image, like a number 4, as if we said about them stepping out of a lift, and it's a bit like the 4 is supposed to be the floor number maybe or something, because that's the number that's there. The only sort of downside about this one is it's got an unfortunate typo in, it seems, because it says deal 2 damage to each player character die. I think Jimmy kind of audibly groaned when that was read on the stream, and I think after that was rather keen to wind things up. But it appears that most people seem to think that it should be deal 2 damage to each player and character die.
I think it's a reprint of Fireball from one of the early Dungeons and Dragons sets, probably the first one, I'm guessing.
Yes.
So if you read the text from that, I think it does say, what you just said. Deal 2 damage to each player and character die. You may also spend any number of bolt energy for each that you do. You may deal 1 damage to target character die. And then it's got some sort of burst. And the burst is hidden amongst the burnt edge of the paper.
It is, yeah. Yeah, but that's another cool one. So, I mean, there is some high points in this set, and definitely, I mean, a new WinCon is a big thumbs up from all of us here at DM United. So, good stuff. Do we think that this is going to entice people back into stores? I mean, that's sort of the $1 million question, really, isn't it? Because this is what they're sort of designed for. Peter?
I think so. Yeah, they're different. They're flashy. Not everyone may like the art per se, but it's definitely something cool to have in your binder.
Yeah.
Yeah, James.
Yeah, I agree. And, as much as I only like some of the cards, if I didn't have if the price of entry, as it were, to get these were paying to participate in some tournaments, yeah, sure, I would. Yeah.
Yeah,
that it would encourage me if I had local games. I don't know how it. Yeah, I should say hi, Peter. I don't know how it will be in Koshita, but if events are laid on in which these are the prizes, yes, it would encourage me to play.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the bottom
line.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can win a super, and if nothing else, even if you win them, they're going to be brilliant. Even if you don't want them and you win them, they're going to be great trade fodder, aren't they, for someone? Because there's always going to be collectors out there who are going to want to get their mitts on them. It's not really clear whether players will be able to purchase them directly further down the line. That's not usually been something that WizKids has done, has it? Direct to players, but sometimes I think stores have been able to sell them on sometime after they are new, so that might happen. I think it would depend on whether you have a store near to you that you have a good relationship with, and you can do something like that if you are a collector and you're desperate to get hold of them. But overall, it's great that things are moving forward, that there's definitely new products on the way, and if you're in North America, you are almost just days away from being able to get your mitts on some new Dice Masters products. So exciting times indeed. Shall we move on to the next segment? Okay, well, the big news on the tournament front is that the Two Team Takedown is back. Now, the Two Team Takedown is a format that us here at DM United have been big fans of, and we've been agitating, shall we say, for someone to bring it back. And the great news is that DM North and Nick Wale, aka Jackalope Spam, friend of the pod, have teamed up, and they are running a new Two Team Takedown tournament that's going to be taking place from early February, and all you need to get involved is a webcam and a link to the Discord channel. So, Peter, first up, what is the Two Team Takedown format? First, I mean, how does a Two Team Takedown tournament generally work?
So, yeah, I think Chris and Rob's Game Room came up with the format.
Yeah.
And what it means is you build two teams, as the name implies.
Yeah.
And you cannot have the same card on both teams.
Yeah.
So if there's a particular card that you really like, you can only use it on one team. So you have to choose. And if there's a particular win con, you can only use it on the one team, and then you need to think of something else for the other team.
Yeah.
But they have added another layer for this particular Two Team Takedown, is that you can only have a character on one team. So before you could have the same character but with different subtitles on the two teams, but now you can only have the one character on one team, and then you cannot have it on the other team.
Right.
What if there's another version of that character? Just out of curiosity, like, does it just rule out those 3 or 4 cards, or does it rule out all cards with that name?
All of them with that name. It's like you cannot have the card with the same character on a normal team, even if they're from different sets. It's like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what we should say is that the usual format is that you'll get paired off with an opponent, and then you will each have to play. In order to win the match, you have to win with both of your teams. So you would play one match with, maybe you play Team A and they play Team A, and then whoever wins that match has to change their team to play their second team, and then the loser can choose to change their team if they want, but they don't have to. They can stick with their original one. And then basically it's the first player to win with both of their teams wins that particular competition. So it's really cool because you have to build 2 different teams and you can't use anything the same. It's a great format. There are some particular limitations they've got this time around, isn't there, Peter, in terms of a ban list?
Yeah, so it's going to be modern, but they are banning the big 3. So that's Becky Lynch, made in Ireland.
Yeah.
It's Thor, right?
Yep.
The super rare.
Your Mungan's Fear.
That one. Yeah. And then there is the famous walking statue. What's it called?
Godcatcher,
indeed.
Yeah.
So those 3 are banned. You can use the other versions of the cards.
Yep.
But not those particular ones.
Yeah, and then things all kick off on, I think it's the deadline for team submission it's 5 p.m. Eastern time on February the 4th. So that's 10 p.m. Exactly. That's 10 p.m. British summer time. No, 10 p.m. UK time, shall we say, and then I think 11 p.m. in Europe. So there's not long. We need to get building some teams, everybody. Yeah, exactly. And then the tournament starts, I think it's the following Monday, and which would be the 7th of February. Basically, you will get paired. They're going to run it, I think, in a Swiss format. You'll get paired off against an individual opponent once a week, and then you have a week basically to arrange and play your match against your opponent. They've changed some of the minor rules. We won't go into all the individual bits of detail, but they've changed some of the stuff around time limits and that kind of stuff. But
we will put the link in the show notes. And
absolutely.
The most important thing is, I suppose, the deadlines, and go and make your teams and get involved, because it's really good. Yeah, I have fond memories of Two Team Takedown.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to quote the sorely missed Meatloaf, you took the words right out of my mouth there, James. with that, yeah, a good little segue. And while we're on the subject of tournaments, we've got Breath Weapon X Fest 3. The fellows at Breath Weapon X are doing another tournament that takes place. Well, it's, I think, this coming Saturday as we record. Does anybody know the date offhand? I should have looked this up before we started recording.
Yes, the 29th of January.
Phew, thank you, Peter. Do we know what format is?
It is going to be Jimmy's XL format,
right?
Meaning you will have 10 cards, 3 basic actions.
Yeah.
You draw 6 dice every turn, and you have 12 sidekick dice. And we'll be using the orange ban list for that.
Yeah. Excellent. And again, we'll put a link to the show notes to Breath Weapon X Fest, but if you fancy an evening of Dice Masters, or a day of Dice Masters, or a night of Dice Masters, depending on where you are in the world, then do get involved. But that's taking place on the 29th of January, so do that if you wish. The last thing we should mention, I suppose, any other business, is Dice Fight. James, Dice Fight continues Thursday night. Do you have any details to hand?
There's a positive smorgasbord of online opportunities, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
That's really good. Yes, Spug, as ever, now, since Danny and Rick have been handling it with much greater aplomb than I ever managed, quite frankly.
Since it's been taken over by capable people.
Yeah. Yeah, so they've planned out the entire year, and you can find that information on the Dice Fight page, even a link to which I'll put in the show notes. Good to know that this week is LCG only, and the following week is Legacy 23, it would seem.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So plenty of opportunity to get involved with online Dice Masters over the next few weeks. It's an exciting time. We are back out of hibernation. I can't wait to get stuck in with the new cards and some of the stuff that's going on. What do you make of the new OP kit? What do you think of the cards in it? Or what do you think of the art? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it could be a great new way of bringing more people into the game in individual stores? Let us know by using the contact details, James, which are hello@dmunited.eu. Brilliant. Or you can just drop us a note on our Facebook page. Other than that, it's been great to have you with us. Thanks for your company, and we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes.